Hi, beautiful people. It's almost Friday here. I know it's Friday for a lot of you. I just came to talk a little bit about JD Vance and some other things that's going on. And I'm going to get right into it. As usual, everything I share is for various purposes for us to talk about. I know that you guys have seen the picture of the 5-year-old that's supposedly ICE detained. Hopefully, we'll get into that and other stuff. So I'm going to get into the video. Okay. Chakra King Black, what's good with you? I'm gonna try to get through this video. I'm feeling a little tonight, but we'll see. Okay, JD Vance says some interesting things, and I'm gonna share that with you guys right now. Okay. Let me see. Hi, Louise Chancellor. Okay, you guys, let me know if I freeze up again. I don't know what's going on. I've been having some technical stuff going on, but how's your night, Louise? I see you. Happy Thursday. Happy baby Friday, you guys. It's almost Friday here. Daniel, what's good with you? Can y'all hear me okay? All right, you guys. We got some stuff to talk about. So I'm going to get into it because it's like... How are you doing, Brooklyn Hood? How are you? You ready to hang out? Want some stuff? Okay. Let me mute my microphone. And as usual, I'm going to use my phone to communicate with you guys. Okay, so I don't have to stop my video.
Answer a few questions, but I want to say just a few things at the outset, just about what I've learned today and what I'm trying to do here. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Annunciation school shooting families, because the last time I was in Minneapolis, it was of course to meet with some of those families. I understand that a couple of the students have made near miraculous recoveries, and just that was a very special moment for me to be invited into that community at a time of grief. And I hope that all of them know that though I didn't get to see them this particular time, I've been thinking about them and their families quite a bit. Now, to talk about what I am here to do, which is federal law enforcement to enforce our immigration laws, I want to say just a few things. First of all,
my camera keeps
I wanted to meet with business leaders, with ICE officers, with local law enforcement to try to understand a little bit better what's going on, so that we can tone down the temperature a little bit, reduce the chaos, but still allow us as a federal government to enforce the American people's immigration laws. That is the purpose of my visit. Now, this is step one or step two of that process. There's going to be a lot of work that follows through from here. I'm happy to talk about that. But I think I learned a few things that were very important. So number one of the things I learned is that the guys behind me are doing an incredible job. And frankly, a lot of the media is lying about the job that they do every single day. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't occasionally stories out there, there aren't occasionally videos out there that suggest that these guys, or at least some of the people who work for them, are not doing everything right. But very often, if you look at the context of what's going on, you understand that these people are under an incredible amount of duress, an incredible amount of chaos, and because of a few very far left agitators, a lot of these guys are unable to do their jobs without being harassed, without being doxxed, and sometimes without being assaulted. That's totally unacceptable. And that's one of the things that I want to send a message to is, yes, come out and protest me, protest our immigration policy, but do it peacefully. If you assault a law enforcement officer, the Trump administration and the Department of Justice is going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And I wanted to show some support for these guys who, frankly, are operating in a very, very tough environment. I heard a lot of stories today about that I think drives home just how chaotic the environment on the ground here has already gotten. For example, did you know that within the last, I think, week or so, maybe even more recently than that, you had a couple of ICE officers who were off duty, who had been doxxed online, who were sitting and having a meal at a restaurant in Minneapolis when a bunch of agitators showed up, locked the door, made them feel like they were in danger for their lives. And then, of course, it was federal law enforcement officers who had to come up, lower the temperature on the situation, and actually get those two off-duty officers to a point of safety. Now imagine, if you would, your life and your perspective on law enforcement if you can't even go to a restaurant without some agitators locking the door and making you feel like your life is in danger. That is the environment that has been created, I think, by a lot of very, frankly, far left people but also by some of the state and local law enforcement officials who could do a much better job in cooperating and working. And by the way, I'm not talking about the cops, who these guys told me on the ground. The cops are very sympathetic to what they're dealing with. I'm talking about state and local elected law enforcement officials who could do a lot better job in making their lives a little bit easier. And in the process, they would make the lives of all Minneapolis residents easier. And that's what we want. We want to be able to enforce the immigration laws on the one hand, while on the other hand, we want to make sure that people in Minneapolis are able to go about their day. And I want to say just one last point on this. So I heard from a business leader today who told me a very tough story. And I think so much of what's gone wrong in Minneapolis is people not trying to understand the perspective of somebody else. Try to understand what somebody else is experiencing, whether they're a law enforcement officer or anybody in the community here in Minneapolis. So they told me a story about this manufacturing facility where an illegal immigrant was being arrested. And as these employees are going into the manufacturing facility, all of a sudden, an illegal immigrant shows up. They don't know it's an illegal immigrant. And then a bunch of ICE officers descend. Now, these people just want to go to work. They want to go to work safely. And now all of a sudden, there's a major law enforcement operation happening right outside their place of business. Now, from one perspective, I certainly understand why a business leader or why an employee would say, well, what's going on? It's a little scary, no matter your position in life, if a bunch of cop cars show up and they're arresting somebody. Now, the additional context is that we know that people online have been encouraging illegal immigrants that one way they can evade arrest is by showing up at a legitimate place of business, making it impossible for these guys to actually enforce our immigration laws. So while I can understand the perspective of somebody who doesn't want to see an arrest happen at their place of work, I can also understand the perspective of our immigration enforcement officers who have to do their job and can't allow a heckler's veto over our immigration enforcement. And so much of what's gone wrong is the failure to do that. And here's the point. We can do a good job of enforcing our immigration laws without the chaos, but it actually requires the cooperation of state and local officials. If you look at blue cities and blue states, red cities and red states, you go to Austin, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee, you go to the state of Texas, obviously a very red state, or the state of Tennessee, a very red state, but you've got blue cities within those states, you do not have this level of chaos. The reason why things have gotten so out of hand is because of failure of cooperation between the state and local authorities and what these guys are trying to do. We have a ton of resources, a ton of ICE agents in this city right now that I would rather us not have. I'd love to send those guys home. They're not even doing targeted immigration enforcement. They are trying to protect ICE officers who are doing immigration enforcement, because when a crowd surrounds them and these guys call 911, the local officials, the local cops have been told to stand down. So we have people here who aren't even doing immigration enforcement, they're doing force protection. So that if a rioter tries to ruin the life or assault an ICE officer, protect more sense for the local.
Is it frozen, you guys? You guys are saying it's frozen. I don't know. I think it's is it frozen or no? Okay. I don't like. Is it frozen, you guys? Shoot, sorry. You guys are saying it's frozen. I don't know. I think it's. Sorry. I don't know what the heck. I'm going to try it again. It's frozen? I don't know why. Okay. I can try. Okay. Shut up. I don't like it frozen. Sorry. I don't know. I could try one more time. If not, then I'm not frozen when I play the video. It just, I want you guys to hear this speech so bad. JD Vance covers a lot of things, and I have another video. He talks about the 5-year-old that so-called was being detained, not telling you guys the true story that really happened with the 5-year-old. I'm not frozen. The video froze. You good? Okay, Justin. I'm going to try it again. The most dumb president of all time. Hassan, you are you bored or something? I don't know what your problem is. All right, you guys, I'm gonna try this again. Let me know, and if not, then we're gonna have to figure something else out. Maybe I'll have to. I don't want to have to hold my phone the whole time. Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Oh, I want you guys to hear this so bad. It's a good speech. All right, I'm gonna try it again. Maybe I should refresh. All right, I'm going on mute.
For the chaos. That's a problem. Here's another example of how the lack of cooperation between state and local officials makes it harder for us to do our job and turns up the temperature. Let's say, for example, we have a criminal migrant who is a sex offender. And let's say that we've got to go and arrest that person who, Democrat or Republican, wants a sex offender living in their community. I would assume, I would hope that most people don't. But because they're an illegal alien, we don't know their last address. We may have known their address 3 years ago, but we don't know their address now. What we'd like to do is talk to local officials and say, you know what, according to the Medicaid rules, where was the last address this person was domiciled? Or according to a SNAP application, a food stamps application, maybe that could give us insight to where this person is today. Or maybe they had some local court trouble. We could go to the local courthouse or even the local jail and try to find where this criminal sex offender is today. The local authorities have been told, do not cooperate. So these guys are trying to go out and enforce the law. They're trying to arrest sex offenders, but they're trying to do it in an environment where local officials have been told, do not help them, do not provide intelligence about where these sex offenders might be. This is disgraceful. And there are a lot of things that all of us could do better to lower the temperature, but the number one thing that I learned today is that the best way to facilitate reasonable enforcement of the law, but also to lower the chaos in Minneapolis, would be for state and local officials to cooperate. Now, I will say, on one final positive note, I actually think that there's some hope, some reason to think that there's going to be better cooperation in the weeks and months to come. I think that because I've talked to some of the local officials here, I think there are reasons to believe that these people are going to step up and actually ask the cops to protect our ICE officers when they're being assaulted, who are going to ask the local courts to cooperate with getting criminal sex offenders out of our community. That's a good thing. That's the good news, and that's something I'm going to work on when I get back to Washington. But please, if you're a local official, if you're the mayor of this town, if you have any influence over those people, just tell them to cooperate. Because we could have immigration enforcement operate as smoothly and without the chaos that we see in Austin, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee, or even rural parts of the state of Minnesota. All we need is a little cooperation. I guarantee we're going to do the best to be professional, to respect people's rights, to not do anything that we don't have to do in order to enforce immigration laws, but it would make our lives a lot easier. It would make our officers a lot safer, and it would make Minneapolis much less chaotic if we had a little bit of cooperation from the state and local officials. With that, I'll shut up and take some questions. Thank you, guys.
My President Vance, a local school district here is alleging ICE agents detaining a 5-year-old after preschool on Tuesday. We've also seen multiple American citizens detained by ICE or harassed by ICE in the last 6 weeks. Are you proud of how your administration is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No one thinks that makes any sense. Now, there are so many of these cases like that where if you just understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second, We don't want ICE arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens. So then I look into it and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer. You can't have that happen. And of course they have to defend themselves. And of course they have the right to detain somebody who assaults a law enforcement officer. Now, this is my point. Do we want these things to happen? Do we want these arrests to be so chaotic? No, we don't. These guys want it least of all. But if we had a little cooperation from local and from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go way down in this community. Go ahead.
After the Renee Good shooting, sir, the administration seemed to
Yeah, well, you can go next.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you pointed it out.
No, that's fine. I'll take both.
After the Renee Good shooting, sir, the administration seemed to, after the Renee Good shooting, the administration seemed to suggest that ICE officers enjoyed near complete immunity. But today you told the Washington Examiner that when appropriate, the administration might take disciplinary actions against ICE agents. So is that a change of opinion? And if so, why?
No, I didn't say, and I don't think any other official within the Trump administration said that officers who engaged in wrongdoing would enjoy immunity. That's absurd. What I did say is that when federal law enforcement officers violate the law, that is typically something that federal officials would look into. We don't want these guys to have kangaroo courts. We want them to actually have real due process, real investigation, because again, sometimes they're accused of wrongdoing, and it turns out when you learn the context, they didn't actually do anything wrong. But of course, we're going to investigate these things. Of course, we're investigating the Renee Good shooting, but we're investigating them in a way that respects people's rights and then ensures that if somebody did something wrong, yes, they're going to face disciplinary action, but we're not going to judge them in the court of public opinion. I've spoken at length on this particular case. I think that Renee Good's death is a tragedy. I also think that she rammed an ICE officer with her car. So the tragedy here is multi-layered. The tragedy is there was the misunderstanding. The tragedy is that Renee Good lost her life. The tragedy is that you have ICE officers who are going into communities where they're worried that if they call 911, no one's going to come to help them. That is what produces this terrible situation, and it's something state and local officials here in Minnesota could solve. Yes, sir.
Could you give us a message towards March for Life tomorrow, especially regarding this cooperation and family values? It's a shame the kids have to get caught up in all this, and towards that.
Well, it is a shame that kids have to get caught up in this. I am speaking at March for Life tomorrow. I'm pro-life, and I'm very excited to speak there. I want to talk about local law enforcement, but I am. As a child, I saw people in my family get arrested. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. It's chaotic. It's traumatic for the kids. I can recognize that, and I can recognize that we got to support these kids, while on the other hand, saying that just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you get complete immunity from law enforcement. And I think we have to hold both of those thoughts in our head at the same time. We've got to be sympathetic to the kids who are caught up in some of these enforcement actions. We've also got to say we have to enforce the law without bias, with fairness, but we've got to enforce the law.
Mr. Vice President.
About local government, there was a clash in St. Cloud roughly a week ago, and their mayor said they haven't heard about ICE being in the city. And how does ICE kind of proactively work with these local agencies? What are those policies, and what's your response to that allegation?
You said there was an altercation in St. Cloud. Yeah.
After the incident, the mayor said that ICE did not communicate with them that they were in the city for a major operation. The police chief did not know about the operation at the time. Could you talk a little bit about proactive communication with local law enforcement?
Yeah, it's one of the takeaways. I've talked with these guys before we came on the stage, but during our roundtable and some of the other conversations we've had, communication, we absolutely want to ensure there's good communication between federal officials and state and local officials. And I'm sure that we can do better on that. We absolutely want to make sure that we are communicating, but that also requires a two-way street. And that's the point that I make about state and local officials. These guys will absolutely communicate with state and local officials. They'll tell people if they have to do an enforcement operation in a particular municipality. But part of that is they also want to ensure that if they're communicating about their whereabouts, that's not being used as a weapon against them. Sometimes they tell people where they're going, and then they find out that their agents' faces are on on Reddit or on some social media thread saying, here's this guy, we know he's going to be at this place at this exact time. So that communication has got to be a two-way street. These guys are going to communicate with business leaders, with local officials, with state officials. But we also need the local officials and state officials to do a good job of protecting people when they're in their communities. We're not asking, by the way, we don't want any police officer in this community, in this state, to help us do immigration enforcement. We've got that. But if a protester shows up and that protester turns violent against our immigration officers, we really, really need the cooperation of our local partners. We haven't gotten it yet, but I think if we do, we really can lower the temperature.
Earlier this week, a colleague at the Washington Post reported today that an ICE memo allows agents to enter people's houses without a judge's warrant. What do you say to people who are concerned about this violating the Constitution, and how much is this tactic being used?
Yeah, so I saw that story, and the story is like so much that I read in the mainstream media. It's missing a whole lot of context, and we appreciate the context. It makes sense. No one is saying, look, there are exceptions. For example, a crazy exception, if somebody is fired at from inside a house, they don't need a warrant to go inside that person's house. There are very narrow exceptions to the warrant requirement where law enforcement officers don't need a warrant if, for example, they're an imminent threat of their lives. But what we've said and what ICE has proposed, what the Department of Homeland Security really has proposed in the Department of Justice, is that we can get administrative warrants to enforce administrative immigration law. Now, it's possible, I guess, that the courts will say no. And of course, if the courts say no, we would follow that law. But nobody is talking about doing immigration enforcement without a warrant. We're talking about different types of warrants that exist in our system. Typically what happens, not always, but typically in the immigration system, those are handled by administrative law judges. So we're talking about getting warrants from those administrative law judges. And then, of course, with other cases, you get judges or you get warrants from a judge. That's very consistent with the practice of American law. I'm sure the courts will weigh in on that, but we're never going to enter somebody's house without some kind of a warrant, unless, of course, somebody's firing on an officer or they have to do something in order to protect themselves.
Follow up on that. Do you believe that you can forcibly enter with an administrative warrant, or would that be a violation of the Fourth Amendment?
Well, our understanding is that you can enforce the immigration laws of the country under an administrative order if you have an administrative warrant. That's what we think. That's our understanding of the law. That's our best faith attempt to understand the law. Again, this is something courts will weigh in on. I won't speak to that. But yes, most immigration law in our country is not done through the criminal system with the judge. It's done through the administrative law system. We're going to continue that practice just as they did in the Biden administration or any other administration.
Was there anything that you heard or saw today that would cause you to counsel the president to invoke the Insurrection Act? And then also, did you meet or talk to the ICE agent who was involved in the Renee Good incident?
I did not talk to him today. I talked to some of his colleagues. Your question on the Insurrection Act is interesting. I've tried to understand this as well as I possibly could. And my understanding is what the Insurrection Act, what invoking the Insurrection Act would allow the federal government to do is that it would allow the federal government to use the military for local law enforcement operations. Right now, we don't think that we need that. Now, the president could change his mind. Of course, things could get worse. But right now, we think that federal law enforcement officers can do the job of federal law enforcement. Now, what I do worry about, again, is if the chaos gets worse, if more and more ICE agents start getting assaulted, if other law enforcement officers start getting assaulted, that would be a real problem. But again, we have so much federal law enforcement resources here right now. We have so many people here that we do not want to have here. I do not want so many ICE officers in Minneapolis right now. I mean, good Lord, it's really, really freaking cold outside. But they're here not even to enforce immigration laws, but to protect the people from the rioters. That's an absurd state of affairs, and we wouldn't need it if we had a little bit more cooperation from the Minneapolis Police Department. Again, the Minneapolis Police Department, my understanding is that the actual beat cops on the ground, they would love to help out, but they're being told by somebody. I don't know if it's Mayor Frey. They're being told by somebody not to cooperate at all. What kind of a person tells their local police don't protect somebody if they're being assaulted by a rioter? It's crazy, and it's got to stop.
Yes. Earlier this week, local law enforcement accused federal agents of racial profiling. Why are there so many U.S. citizens being caught up in this operation?
Well, I think your question assumes something that's not necessarily in evidence, which is that when there are American citizens who have been caught up in some of these enforcement operations, very often it is people who have assaulted a law enforcement officer. They're not being arrested because they violated the immigration laws. They're being arrested because they punched a federal law enforcement officer. That is a totally reasonable thing. Now, to the accusation of racial profiling, look, it's something that we take very seriously. We will take accusations of racial profiling back to Washington. We'll certainly look into them as they come up. But this is not a group that's going around and looking for people who violated the law based on skin color. They're looking for people who violated the actual law, the law of our immigration system in this country. And so long as we had more cooperation, I think they could do these things in a much more targeted way. They would actually know where some of the bad guys are. I mean, again, you hear things that are hard to believe, but I've confirmed that they're true. Sex offenders who we're trying to get off the streets, who the local officials won't tell us their last known address. So then the local officials say, oh my God, these guys are doing widespread targeted enforcement operations, when in reality, we would love to just go to one house. The local officials won't tell us which one house to go to.
Mr. Vice President, to that question, the local police chiefs have said their own off-duty officers, so police officers, are being targeted because they are a person of color and asked to show their papers. Is that a concern of the administration and the Department of Homeland Security if local law enforcement says their own officers are being targeted, and they described it as, quote, civil rights violations in our streets?
So I saw one story about this and one local police officer who said this. And look, certainly is it a concern? Absolutely. The first thing we have to figure out is whether it happened or not. And then if it happened, whether there is a good explanation or a bad explanation. And of course, if somebody violated the law, if somebody racially profiled, if somebody violated the rights of one of our fellow citizens, that is something we will take very seriously. What I also would say is that many of the most viral stories of the past couple of weeks have turned out to be, at best, partially true. So we want to try people based on reality, based on the truth, based on context. We're not going to prejudge people just because of viral social media story that turned out to be half false.
Mr. President, a quick question about the roundtable you just had. I presume that happened. Did you invite anybody with an opposing point of view to get an idea of why people are upset here? And just as a quick follow-up, have you reached out to Governor Walz at all in an attempt to turn down the temperature?
So I haven't talked to Governor Walz on this particular trip. A number of members of our administration, I believe our chief of staff, spoke to the governor and has been in constant contact with his staff over the past week. We've been in my office in constant contact with people here on the ground in Minneapolis. There were certainly people at our roundtable with opposing views. And look, I don't even know, whether it's public, but yes, we met with people with opposing views here at the roundtable. I wanted to get a perspective from everybody, but also, of course, offer my opinion that with a little bit more cooperation, we could lower the chaos. We're going to keep on doing that. If Governor Walz wants to call me, we'll absolutely continue talking. I will say that my sense of this situation, having talked to these guys for a long time, is this is primarily a law enforcement issue. This is the attorney general. This is the local mayor. This is all of the organs of local and state law enforcement. That's who we focus on, but we've certainly been in communication with the governor and his office as well.
Vice President.
Yeah.
So local law enforcement obviously hasn't been really helping out with the agents who've been assaulted repeatedly. What's the plan if nothing changes here locally, and this operation has attracted thousands of agents? Are there any plans to go to any other cities from here?
Well, right now we're focused on Minneapolis because that's where we have the highest concentration of people who have violated our immigration laws. And that's also, frankly, where we see the most assault of our law enforcement officers. I mean, our plan is very simple. If you assault a federal law enforcement officer, we're going to do everything that we can to put you in prison. It's very simple. And most of these protesters, as much as I may disagree with their politics, most of them have been peaceful, but a lot of them have not been peaceful. And if you go and storm a church, if you go and insult a federal law enforcement officer, we're going to try very hard. We're going to use every resource of the federal government to put you in prison. Respect people's rights. Respect people's rights to worship. Respect people's rights to do their job without being assaulted. If you follow that basic principle, the Trump administration does everything that we can to protect your rights. But if you go after somebody, if you assault somebody, if you make a 9-year-old girl cry because you walked into her church and harassed her, we're going to go after you with every single tool that we have.
President, with NBC News, sir. Your administration has said repeatedly this is about safety, about making Americans feel safer. So what do you say to people here in Minnesota who say it's the overwhelming presence of ICE officers and federal officers and their tactics that are making them feel less safe?
Well, one thing I would say is, first of all, we saw in 2025 the biggest one-year drop in murders in the history of the United States of America. Significant reductions in violent crime. The reason why we have less violent crime is really two reasons. Number one, because we're enforcing the immigration laws and getting very violent criminals out of our country. And number two, because we're enforcing our criminal laws and putting guys who assault and murder behind bars. This is part of a broad effort to make us safe. And the chaos that people are seeing, and I understand there is frustration of the chaos, I'd say that we're doing everything that we can to lower the temperature, and we would like federal and local, state and local officials to meet us halfway.
Are you saying that they're not perceiving it correctly? Are you saying that they're not seeing that it's the tactics or the presence of the officers that are?
Look, I'm sure that people are seeing a lot of things that would make any member of our national community feel very upset. But I also think that if you understand this in context, this is the inevitable consequence of a state and local government that have decided that they're not going to cooperate with immigration enforcement at all. In fact, they're going to aggressively not cooperate. So here's a basic illustration of this. If you are an ICE officer and you have to arrest a person who's committed assault and is also an illegal alien, but the state and local officials won't help you identify that person, many of the things that people in Minneapolis are seeing that give them pause, that frustrate them, that worry them, that make them feel like things are too chaotic, many of these things are coming from the fact that there's no cooperation with state and local law enforcement. And I guess what I would tell people, again, many of whom are justifiably concerned and worried about what they're seeing in their communities, is why are we not seeing it anywhere else? We're seeing this level of chaos only in Minneapolis. LA and Chicago, we had some problems there. Pretty much every jurisdiction where these guys are operating, you don't see the same level of chaos. You don't see the same level of violence. You don't see the problems that we're seeing in Minneapolis. Maybe the problem is unique to Minneapolis, and we believe that it is. And it's a lack of cooperation between state and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement.
ICE has been operating here for years with less pushback than we're seeing right now. And even the St. Paul police chief recently said, is there not a way to find common ground without scaring the hell out of people in the community? Those are his words. And I just wonder, with this Operation Metro Surge, is any part of it meant to send a form of political message to the leaders here in Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota? And I know you talked about you've been in touch with the governor's offices and the mayor's offices, but why have you not been able to speak to them directly? Have they not been willing to do so?
Well, look, I have spoken to some of the people in Minnesota directly. I spoke to some of them today. I've spoke to others in the past. And again, our staff has been in very direct contact with pretty much every official with any influence or any power in Minneapolis. But no, we're not trying to send a political message. We're trying to enforce the law. And unfortunately, what has happened is that as we've enforced the law, there's been this weird reaction, again, unique to this city. This is not a common thing across the United States of America. There's been a very unique, very Minneapolis-specific reaction to our enforcement of federal immigration laws. What I'm trying to do here today is understand why that is. What is it about Minneapolis that has become so chaotic? What are the specific types of cooperation that we need? Look, I don't need Tim Walz or Jacob Frey or anybody else to come out and say that they agree with J.D. Vance or Donald Trump on immigration. I just don't need that. What I do need them to do is empower their local officials to help our federal officials out in a way where this can be a little bit less chaotic and it can be a little bit more targeted. Like if we're trying to find a sex offender, tell us where the guy lives. Simple things like that, simple changes in how they're approaching immigration enforcement would make this work a lot better. It would make Minneapolis' streets a lot safer. And it would make this whole thing a lot less traumatic for this community. I'll take one more question.
Mr. Vice President, you've said that it's time to turn down the temperature. Does that include changes to both ICE and CBP tactics that we've seen employed on the streets, including less than lethal tactics, pepper spray, pepper balls? Beyond that, what is the federal government's role in turning down the temperature? And the Minnesota Department of Corrections says that its own officers have been cooperating with ICE all along, handing over criminals once they serve their sentences to ICE officials. Can you concede that there is some cooperation with the state?
Yeah, look, if I was going to list the 5 agencies locally and statewide that I'm most worried about, I wouldn't put the Department of Corrections on that list. I think that while there are certain things we'd like to see more from them, they've hardly been the worst offenders. You agree with that, guys? That's a fair assessment. But I think you talk about tactics and you talked about the response to things. Look, we don't want to employ tactics that we don't employ the kind of tactics that are only necessary when violence is committed against officers. That is these guys' directive, and that's what we're going to try to do. And again, you see, the president said this a couple of days ago, whenever you have a law enforcement operation, even if 99.99% of the guys do everything perfectly, you're going to have people that make mistakes. That is the nature of law enforcement. What I do think that we can do is, working with state and local officials, we can make the worst moments of chaos much less common. And all they've got to do is meet us halfway. These guys want to communicate with them. They want to talk to the local business leaders. Many of these guys, many of the people standing behind me are members of the Minneapolis community. Many of the officials that I met today who work in federal immigration enforcement, this is their home. They love this place. These are their neighbors. They want this to work a lot more smoothly. I think that we can get there. We just got to work at it a little bit, and we need some cooperation from state and local officials. Last thing that I'll say is I just hope they give it. This is a beautiful city. I've only been here a few times. I love it. Even in this weather, I love Minneapolis. We could do a lot better. We could do a lot more with more cooperation. The Trump administration, the directive that I got from the President of the United States is meet these guys halfway. Work with them so that we can make these immigration enforcement operations successful without endangering our ICE officers, and so that we can turn down the chaos a little bit, at least. I think a lot, actually. But for us to do that, we need some help from the state and local officials. We will keep on working with them, and so long as they're willing to work with us, they will always find a partner in public safety and law enforcement in the Trump administration. Thank you all. I will say that when I was flying in here, sometimes when you're vice president, you travel over the country, you travel over the world, and you're not always sure exactly where you're going. I was very excited to be back in Toledo today, but for a brief second, I forgot where I was coming. I opened the window and I thought the president had sent me to Greenland. And, which is going well, by the way, which is going well. But let me give a few shout outs here. Besides Kelly Loeffler, I want to thank a few people who are here. In the front row here, we have our colleague, Rob. Where are you there? Hey, Rob, good to see you, man. We're going to be with you every step of the way. But when Rob is lieutenant governor, the secret to being a successful number two is to take credit for every single good thing the administration does. And when anybody criticizes the administration, you can step back and say, that was not me, that was number one. That is how you be a successful lieutenant governor for the state of Ohio. That's my approach as vice president of the United States. And I see my dear friend, Jay Edwards, who's running for treasurer. Jay, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for everything that you've done for our state and our country. Now, I'm headed from here to Minneapolis, where we're going to talk with some of our ICE agents, talk with local officials about how we can turn down the chaos. And my simple piece of advice to them is going to be, look, if you want to turn down the chaos in Minneapolis, stop fighting immigration enforcement and accept that we have to have a border in this country. It's not that hard. If you look all across our country, what's happened in Minneapolis is happening almost nowhere else in the United States of America. And that's because whether it's in Texas or Tennessee, it's in red states, it's in blue cities, even within our country, most people are cooperating with the simple principle that we ought to be able to enforce our immigration laws and get illegal criminals the hell out of the United States of America. It's really not that complicated. But in a few distinct cities, you see this craziness because the far left has decided that the United States of America shouldn't have a border anymore, and they are willing to fight and penalize and dox and even assault our law enforcement officers in order to fight for the basic principle that anybody ought to be able to come into the United States of America. Well, I'll tell you right now, the Trump administration, we reject that. We are going to get illegal criminals out of our country, and we're not going to let a few left-wing radicals stop us. But I'm here in Toledo to talk about the great American comeback, and that is what I believe. We are 1 year in. We are 1 year in to raising wages for workers instead of declining wages for workers. We're 1 year in to $18 trillion of new investment for the United States of America instead of investment going to every other country but the United States of America. We're 1 year in to getting illegal aliens out of our country so that American homes can go to American citizens, which is exactly where they ought to go. And we are 1 year in to seeing lower inflation and bigger paychecks and more opportunity for the American worker. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we are on the cusp of the greatest economic year in the history of the United States of America because we're doing something new for a change. We're investing in you. We're investing in American workers. We're investing in American businesses, and we're saying to everybody that the United States is open for business, but only if you invest in our great American people and our great American businesses. We're done with the old approach of shipping American jobs overseas and investing in everybody else. We're back to investing in the American worker, and we're not going to stop fighting for you until we return America to the true golden age of great American prosperity. Now, even a year in, we've already seen incredible success from the Trump administration's economic policies. The IRS says that this is going to be the biggest tax refund year in the history of the United States of America. And I know there are a lot of far-left Democrats like Marcy Kaptur who don't like it when the government gives you back your hard-earned money. But the Trump administration believes that you earned it, you ought to keep it, and we ought to keep our hands the hell out of your pocket in Washington, D.C. So why are we going to have the biggest tax year, the biggest refund year in the history of the United States of America? It's because the president, working with the Republican Congress, got no taxes on tips. It's because we got no taxes on overtime. It's because we got no taxes on Social Security. 3 promises that we ran on, 3 promises the president of the United States kept, and because of it, every single person in this room and every single person in the state of Ohio is going to benefit from it. That's what we said we were going to do. We were going to end the green energy scam and invest in American energy workers, and we did it. We're going to reward companies for investing in the United States of America and penalize companies for trying to invest in communist China and places all over the world. We said we were going to do it, and we did it. And because of it, we're starting to see the benefits for American workers every single day. We have the lowest inflation that we've had, well, since the last Trump administration. We have rising wages for American workers. You know that under the Biden administration, those terrible, terrible times, under the Biden administration, you lost an average of $3,000 over that 4 years because inflation was out of control and wages were stagnant for our country. You know, under the first year of the Trump administration, you've already gained over $1,300 in real wage gains. And my friends, we are just getting started. Because what the president of the United States says every single day is we are not done fighting for the American worker until we get everything back that the Biden-Harris administration took away and more beyond that. I don't want you to just struggle to get by. I don't want you to worry about paying your credit card bill or your medical benefits. I don't want you to think, do I buy prescription drugs or do I buy food? That is the legacy of the Democratic Congress under the Biden-Harris administration, and it's something we can't go back to. A lot of you know my story. I mean, this is my home. You all, well, you voted for me, at least most of you did. So, actually, in this room, I probably got about 100% of the vote. I think I see a few people who weren't old enough to vote for me in 2022, but look, you know my story. You know the fact that I grew up in a family. I was raised by a grandmother who would look at her credit card statement every single day and wonder, what can we afford? Can I buy my medicine this month, or do I need to focus on food? Can we take a little bit extra maybe and buy those pills that she needed in order to stay healthy and keep our family afloat? These are the decisions that way too many families had to take under the Biden administration. And under the Trump administration, we want better for you. And we're fighting better for you every single day. We want you to have enough prosperity to, yes, buy the things that you need, to, yes, buy those medications and put food on the table, but maybe to take a little vacation. Because if you work hard every single day, you ought to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Maybe you want to buy something extra for your kids. Maybe you want to do something that you couldn't do when you were a kid, because that is the promise of the American dream, that we leave the next generation a little bit better off than the generation that came before. And what we had under the Biden-Harris administration is lower wages. We had higher prices. We had more people struggling to get by, and more people who gave up on the essentials instead of buying the things that they needed to buy. What we have under the Trump administration is a totally different approach. And what we're trying to do, and what we've already done a lot over the last year, is made you wealthier, has made your communities safer, has gotten those illegal aliens out of the United States of America, and is trying to rebuild that all-important American dream. So I have a very simple question. Do we, 1 year into this great American recovery, do we want to go back to the failed policies of the Biden-Harris administration? No, we don't. So let's keep doubling down on American prosperity. Let's keep doubling down on the American worker. And let's tell Marcy Kaptur and the rest of the crazy congressional Democrats that we are not going back. We are going forward to a brighter future for every single one of our citizens.
Hey guys, man, I hate streaming with my my camera off, but I have to. I'm having all these technical difficulties. So I am hoping. What are you guys saying? Sleepy Joe? Sleepy Joe? What are you talking about? Usually, okay, you guys are saying a lot. So I am hoping that JD Vance runs for 2028. I think he'll make a fine president, and he will definitely give Newsom a run for his money. So I'm pretty excited about that. You guys, yeah. Vance opposed Trump until he waived the, I don't know, talking about really, I don't know. Biden is pro-Sith, so I don't know. I mean, okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, I get excited listening to him. I don't know how you guys feel, but he did really well at the vice presidential debate. He did a great job. So I'm looking. And you guys, stop saying that he's wearing eyeliner. He does not wear eyeliner. That's just how he looks. And even if he did, I don't care. I don't care. That's just him. I had let's switch gears. The weakest vice president. Okay, you guys, I have a lot of left in my chat tonight. That's okay. These are paid actors and puppets. I'm actually grown people who still believe in these parties. They don't help anybody. They work together. I guess. Okay, before I get out of here, I probably won't be able to find it now. Nope, I lost it. Okay, let me let this play so I can find my last video for you guys. Cab Dog, what? I didn't say you were a leftist, Zarali. I didn't say that. All right, hang on. You prefer Rubio, I guess.
You know, there are things the media doesn't talk about that I think are so important to highlight because they show real progress for the American people. Did you know that for 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration, Americans paid the highest prescription drug costs anywhere in the world? And we did it because we had an administration that refused to go to Big Pharma and say, this is ridiculous that you're charging 1/10 the price in England or in France that you are in the United States of America. So what did the president do? One of the first things President Trump did is he hauled these pharmaceutical executives into the Oval Office. He wasn't getting any help from Congress, though we certainly would have appreciated Marcy Kaptur helping us lower prescription drug costs, but we weren't getting that help. So what did he do? He brought the pharma executives into the Oval Office and he said, you are done forcing Americans to pay more for prescription drugs than any other country anywhere in the world. And so now, thanks to the president's leadership and thanks to the support of our congressional allies like John Huston, we have prescription drug costs coming down in this country for the very first time. Whether it's antibiotics or whether it's
Mr. President, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
You have talked about this framework, the beginning of a framework that you've spoken with the NATO secretary about. Can you tell us anything about that? Does this ultimately mean that the U.S. will ultimately acquire Greenland?
Well, I don't know if I can say that, but it could be. I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. But in the meantime, we're getting everything we wanted, total security, total access to everything, have as many bases, have all the equipment that we want. And very importantly, you know, we're building the Golden Dome, we call it. It was called the Iron Dome. Somehow the Golden Dome sounded a little bit better, but we have a technology that's second to none. You saw what we did with Israel, and that's our genius that did that. And it's amazing. It's just, you know, it's foolproof, and we're going to be building it, and it works much better when we have access to Greenland. Just covers more territory, covers it more accurately. Missiles will be more accurate by having it. It's very important strategically as a piece, and we will have everything we want. We're getting everything we want at no cost.
So the Golden Dome will be on Greenland?
A piece of it, yes, and it's a very important part because it's everything comes over Greenland. If the bad guys start shooting, it comes over Greenland. So we knock it down. It's pretty infallible. It's amazing. You know, Ronald Reagan had the idea a long time ago, but we didn't have any technology at that point. The concept was great, but there was no technology. Now we have unbelievable technology. I mean, virtually 100%.
So what are we talking about? An acquisition of Greenland? Are you going to pay for it? I mean,
we're talking about it. It's really being negotiated now, the details of it, but essentially it's total access. It's there's no end. There's no time limit. We're not doing a 99 or a 10-year or anything else, you know, the famous 99-year deals that you hear about, because countries can't do it for that. Countries go on longer. And so I think it's going to be something that's very well, already it's being reviewed very well. Well, I noticed the stock market went up very substantially after we announced it, but the details are being negotiated now. It'll be very good.
So because the GDP of Greenland is like $3.3 billion, but people are valuing Greenland of between $50 billion and almost $1 trillion. So what are you willing to pay for Greenland?
Well, I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the Golden Dome, and the Golden Dome is going to be something that's going to be very amazing. It'll be Israel times probably 100. And we need it. I think we need it. And it's all going to be made in the United States. We have the best weapons in the world. We have the best companies in the world. We want them to produce faster. And, you know, we've put a mandate out. You're going to have to produce faster, whether it's the Patriots or the Tomahawks or the F-35s or anything else. We make the best equipment, but they have to make it a lot faster.
And you've said you want a defense budget of $1.5 trillion for 2027. How do you pay for that with the $37 trillion debt load?
Yeah, the money that's coming in is astronomical. You know, we'll be taking in over $600 billion this year alone in tariffs, and that's because we're doing it nice and easy. We're not even doing it strongly. We hope we have a good decision from the Supreme Court. If we don't, we figure something else. But it certainly makes life a lot easier if we have that decision that we're waiting for. If we don't, we'll do something else. But we have a lot of money coming in. We have a tremendous success. We have over $18 trillion. It could be when I get the final numbers, could be more than that now because, you know, that was a month and a half ago, but we have $18 trillion coming into the country in the form of investments. We have thousands of businesses being built all over the country. And you see it, you report on it better than anybody else. I appreciate that. But, when you think of 18 trillion plus, no country's done anywhere near that. Like, that's probably 4 times, 5 times more than any other country's ever done.
And I always say money goes where it's treated best.
Well, it's treated
you've got
good.
the right policies, obviously.
But they want to be treated good. They want to know that, we have a country that's hot. We had a dead country 1 year ago. This was a dead under Biden. You know that better than anybody, but we were a dead country. The king of Saudi Arabia said it to me. I use it all the time. He said, 1 year ago, you were a dead country. Now you have the hottest country in the world. We're the hottest country in the world.
Mr. President, are our relations with Europe deteriorating or worsening? I mean, French President Macron called the Greenland situation colonialism. European leaders have these emergency talks to try to retaliate or stop your plans. You're threatening France with 200% tariffs on wine and champagne. There's been a real reaction from the European group. So,
well, they put a service charge on us, which is something that they're going to have to remove. I think we get along good, but, I've always debated, we are always going to be there for them, but will they be there for us? I've always said that, if we ever needed them, because NATO has very much been a one-way street. We actually paid, until I came along, we were paying I think we paid 100% the cost of NATO. They weren't paying and we were paying. We have hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Germany. We have 50,000 soldiers in other countries. We have a lot of soldiers, not only Europe and other places. And, we want that to be reciprocal. We want to be liked and respected. So I've always said, and we get along very well with NATO, I think, but I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really the ultimate test. And I'm not sure of that. I know that we would have been there or we would be there, but will they be there? And let's hope that that never happens. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little off the front lines. But we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries. And, now under my administration, that began because we had a very successful first term. That began then, but it has to be a two-way street. And it's been a two-way street, much more so. And now it's really been a two-way street.
So what should we expect from the European countries? I mean, they've got this EU anti-coercion instrument that would be, services, impacting our services, as you said. And then the Danish pension fund said that they're going to exit U.S. treasuries, $100 million treasuries at the end of December. European countries hold trillions of stocks and bonds from the U.S. Do you worry that they would start selling those in retaliation?
If they do, they do. But, if that would happen, there would be a big retaliation on our part. And we have all the cards.
Mm-hmm. And how much of all of this, you've been so tough on so much. I mean, Venezuela, Iran, et cetera, a long list. How much of this is messages to China and Russia as well?
I think they see what happens. Look, we attacked Iran. We wiped out their nuclear capacity one night. This was supposed to have been done for the last 25 years, and it wasn't by American presidents. And we did it, and it was a tremendous success. We wiped out, as you know, al-Baghdadi, that's ISIS, the founder of ISIS, and he was rebuilding ISIS. I knocked him out first term. Soleimani, that was a big one. He's the father of the roadside bomb. All the young people that you see without arms and legs, and their face was blown to pieces. And that was 95% sure it was al-Baghdadi. He was the father of the roadside bomb. He's gone. Now he's wiped out. And recently Venezuela. But a big one was, you take a look at what we did. We would not have peace in the Middle East if we didn't take out the nuclear capacity from Iran. We wiped it out. Operation Midnight Hammer, it's called. And that was an incredible feat. Every single bomb went right down those chutes and exploded. 100,000-pound bombs, massive bombs. They went right through. In the dark of night, no moon, no anything. Every single bomb hit its target perfectly. And then recently Venezuela, some people think that was sort of the most amazing because this was in a major military fort. One of the biggest military forts went in, did the job, came out. Nobody can believe it happened. Nobody killed, no equipment lost. Pretty amazing.
It could be that what you did in Venezuela galvanized the people of Iran. And I want to get your take on next steps because you told the people of Iran you're with them. Help is on the way. We understand from reports at least 20,000 people are dead. how do you know they're no longer killing citizens, and will you finish the job?
Well, I hear two different reports. I mean, I hear different numbers, much different than those numbers. But I will say that they were going to hang 837 people that you know about, and that was sort of a done deal. And I said, if you do that, you're going to pay a big price. You're going to get hit harder than anybody's ever been hit before. And they decided not to do that. So they didn't hang those people on Thursday. Last Thursday, they were going to hang. Can you believe it? We're talking about this?
No.
That's from 1,000 years ago, right? But that's what we're dealing with. And yet smart, cunning people. But it's an ancient way of life. They were going to hang 837 people. And I said, in the very strongest of language, don't do it. And they didn't do it. So that was a big thing. And from there, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's the last we had to do with them for a little while. But if we didn't take out their nuclear threat, there would not be peace in the Middle East. Nobody could have done it. They were all afraid. They were afraid. They used to say the bully of the Middle East, that Iran was the bully of the Middle East. Now, they're not such an effective bully anymore.
Well, if they keep killing people, will you go back?
Well, I don't want to talk about that because I don't want to put myself in a position. I can't say that. I don't want to say it because I think it would be stupid for me to say that.
And I get that. I want to turn to the economy, Mr. President, because when I first interviewed you, when you first came back, it was about a month after the inauguration for your second term. I asked you, Mr. President, what do you want the economy to look like in 4 years? And you were very clear. You said, I want the private sector to rule the day. And since then, in the last year, you've taken a 10% stake in Intel. You've taken a stake in MP Mountain Pass. You told the defense companies 2 weeks ago, don't pay any dividends, don't do buybacks until you produce the weapons that we need. So please explain to our audience, how is that free market capitalism?
Well, it's very free market. We have defense companies that were making a fortune. They were buying back stock with all their money. And then they come to us for money if they want to, we want to buy something or we want to have plants built. And they'd say, could you loan us the money? And they'd be doing tens of billions of dollars of stock buybacks. So I'm not letting them do it. I want them to put money into, we have the best equipment in the world, the Patriots, the Tomahawks, the F-35s, all of our equipment's the best. Other countries want it, and we want it. We need more. It takes too long to get it. I said, we're not going to do that anymore. So also, they were making tremendous amounts of money. I mean, 25, 50, $37 million a year. That's a lot of money. That's almost as much as you make. You work harder. You work harder than them. No, but they were making. I asked one of the gentlemen, "What are you making?" Sir, I make $24 million. How come it takes me 5 years to get your particular thing that they make? Right. So I put a cap on that for a period of time. I said, you have to build more plants. When we need Tomahawks, I want them within 24 hours. When we need any kind of a Patriot or whatever I want to have it quickly. I don't want to be waiting 3 years for it. What kind of a thing is that? And you make all this money. And I'm prohibiting them from doing stock buyback. And they haven't even complained about it.
Well, so free market capitalism, unless it's a national security issue?
Look, it's free market. It's stupid market letting that take. Why would I let them do stock buybacks and we give them, the businesses from us? So I want to buy, and interestingly, their stocks went up because we raised the budgets. Our budgets are high. We're going to buy more military equipment. We have to. In this world, we have to. We have the strongest military. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We have the strongest military we've ever had. And we're going to keep it that way. And you get a little glimpse of that with Iran nuclear, but you got a really very current glimpse from 2 weeks ago with Venezuela.
Yeah.
We have the smartest, we have the strongest, we have the best equipment. They had a lot of anti-aircraft stuff that didn't exactly work too well.
Well, thank God for our military and for our commander in chief on that.
We have the greatest, strongest military in the world, and we make the best equipment. We have to make it faster.
Mr. President, let me talk about affordability, because just in the last 100 days, you announced a list of things that you want to be putting in place, bringing down the cost on a number of things, a 10% cap on credit cards, $200 billion in purchases of mortgage-backed securities, banning institutions from owning single-family homes. How soon would you expect those policies to actually move the needle on cost?
Well, I think they're going to kick in pretty quickly, but we're doing great on affordability. That's a word that the Democrats made up. They're the ones that caused the problem. When I inherited this, when I came into office, I had eggs that were 5 times higher than they ever were. And the people were screaming at me. Remember the famous, like 2 days after I come into, what about eggs? What about eggs?
Yeah. I just got to office.
I said, do we have a problem with eggs? I just got here, right? And we have that down now lower. But the food prices are coming down. Look at gasoline, $1.99 in a lot of places. We're down to $1.99 in a lot of places. We're $2.30 overall, but we're down to $1. It was $4.50, $500. I mean, think of it. It was you were spending in a lot of places over $5. We have it at $1.99. That's better than any tax cut. In addition, the great big beautiful bill just kicked in. And now you have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, no tax on overtime. That bill is going to have a huge, and you have, of course, the 1 year deduction from, build a plant and you can deduct.
I was just going to say the depreciation seems like it's really having an impact on
we have thousands of businesses being built all over the country. There's never been a time like this in our country. And, a lot of that's the $18 trillion that's pouring in. I spoke with Eli Lilly the other day. He's a great guy, a great leader. And I said, what are you doing? He's building 5 plants. They're spending billions and billions of dollars bringing back the drug industry into this country. Many of them, I think all of them, they all want to come. And it's because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs. Very simple.
And
I think they were very happy with November 5th, the election.
On the cap on credit card rates, and of course they were up to 28, 30% in some cases. But one analyst,
how can you do that? Look, I'm all for free enterprise and everything else. But you have a guy goes out and he's a little bit late on his, payment, and he ends up filing for bankruptcy, right? 28%. Whatever happened to usury? Whatever happened? They used to have laws that you can't charge too much, but 28%, 30%, 32%. I don't think anyone knows that. I think they get a bill and they end up just going bankrupt.
Well, one analyst said it's going to cut earnings for the banks for between 5% and 16%.
It's a 1 year deal. We got to let people get back on their feet.
Jamie Dimon says that it's an economic disaster.
They were destroyed. These people were destroyed during the Biden years. They were destroyed. We had the highest inflation in history. Look at inflation for the last 3 months. It's 1.2%. Last 3 months, it takes a little time to get there. And I'll tell you, the oil price is coming down so much, gasoline. When you get gasoline down to, less than $2, and we've largely done that. It's coming down and it's coming down. We're drilling more than we've ever drilled. We have more coming in. And we just took over, as you know, 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. And they gave it to us. They had to get rid of it. They gave it to us. It's, could be close to $5 billion. No, we're doing really well. Our country is, you report on it better than anyone else. Our country is doing as well as I think it's done better than it's ever done.
Are you going to release a budget next month? And do you want to see another reconciliation package?
Well, I think we have a problem because I think we're going to probably end up in another Democrat shutdown because that's the only way. When we came out with the numbers over 5, everyone was shocked. But remember, we would have been up 1.5 points more. We would have been at 6.5, maybe more than that, except for the shutdown. The shutdown cost us a lot. And I think they'll probably do it again. That's my feeling. We'll see what happens.
So will you release a budget?
We're going to have a budget.
What's in the budget?
What's too early? We have a long way. That's an eternity. When you talk about a couple of weeks in this world, that's an eternity. But we're negotiating the budget right now. We're negotiating health care. I don't want the insurance companies to get the money. I want the money to be paid directly back to the people. And when it comes back to the people, by the way, everyone is in love with it. You know what happened? I'm looking and on your show, but I'm looking and I'm reading the papers and I'm seeing that these insurance companies are up 1,000%. They're up 1,700%, 1,400%. And I said, what the hell? This is money being given by the government. And it has to do with largely, a lot of it, Obamacare. The money's going, that was designed to make insurance companies rich. The Democrats are very big for the insurance companies. That's why you probably won't have an agreement on paying directly to the people because the Democrats are totally owned by the insurance companies. But the money should be paid into a healthcare savings account or whatever, but the money should go directly to the people. You'll end up paying less money. You'll have much better health. They're going to go out and buy their own healthcare. So do you think of it? They'll have better health care for less money.
Do you think we'll see another reconciliation plan? Do you want that?
I'd like to see it. It's hard when you have a majority by 3. It's hard because you have a guy like this loser, Massey. He's a real loser. And you have other guys that just automatically vote. No, Rand Paul. I always got along well with Rand Paul, but he's always, no vote. Someday you're going to have to explain it. Some psychiatrist ought to go see him. Even a really great vote, they just vote no. I don't know what it is. I think they get good publicity. They really don't. They hurt the country, because if you're voting no, then you're giving the Democrats and socialism and communism, frankly, because you have communists, frankly. I mean, when you look at some of the plans being put out by them, these are communists. These aren't socialists. These are communists.
Well, I mean, they want to upend your agenda. And the probe of Jay Powell, even Republicans, Tom Tillis, said that we're not going to move any nominations through until this is.
That's why Tom Tillis is no longer there. He's going to be out. He wasn't able to run. He checked his poll numbers. He couldn't have won.
So you're not afraid that they're going to stop your agenda?
Okay, look, they've been fighting me for 10 years.
Yeah.
And here we are. This isn't the White House, but I'm going to the White House. I'm not going someplace else. And they've been fighting me for 10 years. They're very, very unfair fighters. They're sick. I mean, in many cases, I really think they're mentally ill. They've got a problem. Because when you look at what they do, when you look at the things, even, you take a look, they're still fighting for it. Men and women's sports, transgender for everybody. Open borders, let the world pour in. We have people coming in from the Congo, prisons in the Congo, prisons in Venezuela, prisons from all over the world. Let them come into our country. And that, we've done an incredible job. We closed up the southern border, 100%. I didn't go back to Congress. He said, you can't close it because I need, legislation from Congress. I said, no, you don't. You need a president. But think of it. We have a situation where the border is 100% closed. So beautiful. We're taking people into our country. We need people for all these businesses that are opening, but they're coming in legally.
You want legal immigration.
But we did an unbelievable job on the border, and really nobody talks about it. The one thing I find in politics, you solve a big problem. I got elected pretty much on the border and other reasons, but the border was a big. I've won. I made it. I did a great job in the border within 4 weeks. Look at Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a totally safe city. You can walk with your husband down the street. Nothing's going to happen. A year ago, you would have had a 50-50 chance of being slugged.
Will all of this be enough to keep the majority for the Republicans in the midterms?
I don't know. The only thing I don't really fully get, I don't understand how it could be possible, but if you look over 100 years, the president, Republican or Democrat, no matter how well, we're having a great presidency. Even the radical left lunatics say this was one hell of a year for Trump. So we're having a great year, but Democrats have had good years as presidents too, and they lose the midterm. So for whatever reason, I mean, I think I saw where it's 2 out of the last 50 years, 1, 2. And you say, how is that possible? So there's something psychological that if you're president, no matter how well you're doing, you don't do well in the midterms. And this is Republican, Democrat. The numbers are staggering. It doesn't make sense. We should do well. We should do well. And we're going to fight like hell to do well. Because, look, we don't want to have anything. What we've done is we've created a miracle. This country is stronger. It's doing better than it's ever done. And you're going to see that. And, we inherit a lot of debt, 36, but growth will make that a small number. If we grow like I think we're going to grow, that becomes small, and we're going to pay off debt. We have so much. If we win that Supreme Court case, it'll be so incredible. But we'll be paying off debt. We'll be probably issuing some dividends. We did it with the 1776 for the soldiers. 17, think of that. That was great. It was 1775, and I said, well, if you add $1 to it, it's 1776. That was meaningful. But we did it for the soldiers, all of the soldiers, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all of the services got it. And I'm just walking over here for an interview. 5 soldiers, good-looking guys, our guys, stopped me. They said, sir, thank you for 1776.
Oh, that's great.
So
Mr. President, I know you have limited time, and we so appreciate you stopping by and talking with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, we still friends? Can y'all hear me? Okay. What are you guys saying? So that's what is happening right now. We see that Donald Trump still wants Greenland. He just said he's not taking Greenland by force. And JD Vance is really busy speaking and talking about what's happening in Minnesota, Greenland, and other things. So yeah, there's a lot that's going on. Claudia, text on nothing. Okay. All right. Let me show you guys this video real quick. I was gonna show it to you from my phone because I don't want to play another video tonight. But what's happening? I thought that what was happening in Minnesota was going to get better. It doesn't look like it's going to get better. Let me show you this. Wait a minute. Let me show you. I thought this was crazy. Look at this. Don't talk about my nails.
At all. We do not support ICE. Get off of our property. Bye. Bye.
Can you see it or no?
Bye. Bye. Get out of my way. I'm trying to leave. Get out of the way. Hey, he's trying to get out of here. Hey, watch out behind you. Way! Get out of my city! You're welcome. I do not belong in this property at all. We do not.
So then you wonder why ICE is acting the way that they're acting. Now, I don't know if you heard JD Vance talk about how they're showing this picture of this 5-year-old that was arrested. They're not telling you the full story. Fake news, okay? They were trying to arrest his father, and they couldn't just leave the little boy by himself. ICE is there for a reason, and that is to protect our borders, and we cannot get in its way, okay? So that's not to say about that. So anyways, you guys, I hope that y'all got something out of that. There is no hating with God. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. People need to get Denmark to get control. Okay, y'all having a whole different conversation. I don't know what y'all talking about, but all right, you guys. Ironic enough. Okay, something I'm talking about. I can read this one. Hi, Jack. Ironic enough that ICE showed up across the street from Dairy Queen. I guess. So I really don't understand why people are fighting ICE and the things that's happening that's going to better our country, including getting Iceland, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Greenland, somebody put Iceland in my chat earlier, including getting Greenland. It makes sense because if we don't get Greenland, then we run the risk of China and Russia getting Greenland, and it would be very strategic for the United States to have Greenland. Not just for its resources, but because of where it's located. It just makes sense. But, you know, they're negotiating a pop. They use that kid as bait. Thank you for being on subject. Okay, wait, I lost your comment. I lost the comment. Oh, there it is. They use the kid as bait. Plenty of kids have been taken by ICE and deported without their parents. Citizens have been arrested being in unalived bodies. You know, people keep saying that ICE is separating families. Crime separates families. Breaking the law separates families. If I were to drink and drive and go to jail, that would take me away from my kids. Don't break the law and you'll be with your family. So it makes sense to take someone else's land. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But Donald Trump isn't the first president that's spoken about Greenland. And he darn sure wouldn't be the last. And if I had time tonight, I would play you guys the responses from different presidents, Democrat, that spoke about Greenland, and there was no pushback. The same as when I speak about immigration. There was no pushback when it was a Democratic president. Let's talk about Obama, because people like to talk about Obama. And who's deported more illegal immigrants than Donald Trump to date. And there was no pushback. So it's a selective outrage for me. We've been talking about Greenland for a long time. Tired of Dems going against the wall. Jack, I totally understand that. I love you, Missy. I love you back. I totally understand it. Thank you guys that do support me. And, you know, non-biased commentary, non-partisan commentary. But listen, I get tired of the selective outrage. It seems as if when the right does something, people want to criticize and demonize it. But it's no different than what the political left has done. None. Donald Trump laid out the plan of what he was going to do once he came into office, and Donald Trump is doing exactly what the American people have voted for. Now you're going to have people on the news looking at stuff, people are not taking into account that there's paid agitators, paid protesters going out there, and then they're baiting the ICE agents to use force so they can go back and say that the ICE agents are doing things illegal. They're not doing anything illegal, but trying to uphold the law. And that's not what they're showing you. So I don't believe everything that I see on the news. I have to look and look for the truth myself. And these ICE agents are trying to keep our borders safe. They're protecting our borders. And the nerve of people to think that you can just enter the United States however you want. And if people tell you to uphold the law, you can't just come here how you want, then the ICE agents are evil. America's evil and hateful. No, because we cannot enter their country any kind of way. You know why? It would be a threat to their national security. That's just how it is. People are fighting ICE because Marxist teachers have brainwashed our kids for decades. That's why, you know what, I hate to say this, but number one, the parents are the first teachers at a home. Sometimes it's better to homeschool. My kid goes to a school where he goes to a private school for a reason, because I am concerned about what my child learns. Men are men and women are women. And my child, I do not want my kids to be in a bathroom with a man that calls himself a woman and all the other nonsense that they were trying to push in our school system. So yeah, there's a lot of things that's going on there. So going down houses, what are you saying? So going down to random houses, knocking on the door and demanding to come in, ask for ID without warrant is okay with you. I didn't say that it was okay with me, third leg, and that's why I play videos of what the president are saying, what the people that's leading this country are saying. I'm speaking about the video. Now, what I don't like is that the police officers are not cooperating. We just heard from the vice president. He said himself that the ICE agents, they asked for some of these people that are offenders, that have broken the law, that have committed violent crimes, and the police officers are not cooperating. I showed you guys a clip the other day of a police officer not cooperating with the ICE investigation. So they're doing what they have to do to get people out of here. You don't see ICE agents breaking into people's houses. You guys, that's that fake news and that propaganda and that fear-mongering that I talk about. We don't see that. What you do see is ICE agents out there. You see people blowing their horns like some daggone lunatics. That's not a peaceful protest. Imagine living in that country and they're blowing their daggone horns everywhere. No, that's not peaceful. What I see when I watch these videos, let me get rid of your comment because I've seen it. What I see when I watch these videos are people aggravating these ICE agents, getting in the way. We have no business getting in the way of an ICE agent investigation, okay? You're fighting for people that's not going to fight for you. And there are peaceful protests. I showed a peaceful protest with the Martin Luther King rally. I showed that. I have no problem showing that. But what I don't like is when you aggravate somebody or you want to hit them with your car. And unfortunately, somebody lost their life. But instead of learning from that situation, you have people trying to paint this lady as a martyr. That's what I'm saying. Dr. Manhattan, they're coming at me. What's good? Because, I just seen you come. They're coming at me. So, stay out of the way. And you won't get hurt. But if you put yourself in the line of fire, things can happen. I don't want those things to happen. But I'm not going to criticize anyone that protects their life, because those ICE agents want to go home to their family as well. And why should they lose their life because they're out here upholding the law and doing what they need to do for the American citizens? Now, I find it very problematic that the mayor and the governor of Minnesota is making it seem as if it's okay not to listen to the ICE agents because they're breaking the law. What law is the ICE agent breaking? I feel as if they're causing civil unrest, and they are stirring up the people, and they're doing it in a very slick way. Oh, if they're breaking the law, so you don't have to listen to the ICE agents. Okay, tell that to Renee Good's family. Look at how that turned out. Sammy, are we still friends, you guys? Are we still friends? If we're not, that's okay. I'm not trying to. I'm just telling you guys what's facts. What's good, Kara? Tell me why. Okay, I'm going to talk about. So I don't understand the backlash and what's happening in Minnesota. I do hope that they use the Insurrection Act, because it doesn't look like America to me. It seems as if people are fighting to allow illegal immigrants into the country. Why? It's not for the reason that you guys think, okay? It's not. The same reason why they want to get away with having people vote without IDs, why they want to get away with a lot of stuff. Who is it going to benefit? Will it benefit the Republican Party, or will it benefit the Democratic Party to allow a bunch of illegal immigrants into our country? It devastates our economy. It takes a toll on our economy. That's not the American way. And that is why Harris lost the election. Now, I don't think, this is just my prediction, I don't know, that the Democrats are going to put Harris through for the 2028 presidential campaign. Not against Newsom. I think she's going to have a hard time, and a reason why. She talked about open borders. She talked about prisoners having gender reassignment surgery and American people paying for it. When we're trying to pay for healthcare, we got to pay for a man to be a woman. So there's all kinds of problems there. And Donald Trump is taking a lot of those things away. Now, I'm not trying to push Donald Trump down your throat, but I am saying that we need protected borders, and those ICE agents are out there doing their job to keep America safe and to keep criminals and fentanyl from coming into this country. And they're doing what they have to do. And it's time that we look at things and say, wait a minute, the last few years has not been so great for the American people. And people were tired and they wanted to change. And that's how Donald Trump got pushed through, and he made the biggest political comeback in history. People are protecting our neighbors from, okay, I don't know what y'all talking about. You know what else drains the economy? Debasing the currency in decline. Okay, where am I? I'm in Palm Springs. No one wants Harris. If Harris pulls the same crap that she did during the last campaign with the giggling at every comment, now I'm glad she did that 60-minute interview, because that showed her true colors, and he really pinned her down on some key points. When he pinned her down, she looked lost. She couldn't really answer the questions, and when she did, the American people got to see what exactly she wanted to spend our tax dollars on, and it was not to benefit the American people. You are safe in your home if you aren't illegal. Trump, Epstein's best friend. Speaking of Epstein, the Clintons are they didn't respond to the subpoena. So let's watch that trial and see what happens with that. If you want to talk about Epstein, or Clinton has been asked to answer questions about his relationship with Epstein, but you don't want to talk about that. You only want to talk about Donald Trump. And that's the selective outrage I'm talking about. We're going to have these conversations. We're going to have these conversations. If you wanted the Epstein files, Biden could have put those files out there. The Democrats had control of Congress at that time before there was a shift, and Obama could have done it, but you guys did not press for it during the Biden administration. And if there was anything that could have incriminated Donald Trump, it would have come out before the election. Why? Because they didn't want him to win. So obviously they would have put those files out, and now you want them out. Why? Because you want to take away from the midterms. You want to try to talk about Donald Trump as if he's in those files in a derogatory way. It would have already come out. But you don't want to talk about Clinton and the picture that came out with Bill Clinton. And it's interesting. I posted a picture of Bill Clinton on my community wall, and the left went a little crazy in my emails. You guys got a little upset with me. Why? If I would have posted a picture of Donald Trump, you guys would have liked me. And it's just those things that I'm talking about. So you really don't want to talk about Epstein. You want to take away from what I'm saying. White liberals don't understand illegals. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you so much. White liberals don't understand illegals hurt local poor natives in the same way that rich gentrification does. They displace the local population. Thank you for the comment. Candace Owens' sister. Candace Owens, I would not be her sister. I would just be MU. I do not like the things that Candace Owens. See, this is why I play videos and I don't speak. Okay. I don't like what Candace Owens is saying right now. Candace Owens has already turned on the Trump administration. She said that she's not happy to be Republican during Donald Trump's time in office. I don't know who irritated me with the comment more, Candace Owens or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to say Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to say Marjorie. Nevertheless, I'm not a fan right now. I don't do conspiracies. I don't do all those things that Candace is talking about. At first, I did think that she brought some questions to the Tyler Robinson case. I get it. But I also feel that she's bringing a lot extra, and it's just too much. It's too much. So, no, I will not be her sister. concentration camps. Candace is on something, I swear. I don't understand what happened with Candace. I don't understand. She was a strong Trump supporter. And I'm not even upset at people for, some people are saying the Republican Party doesn't look like what it used to. Everything evolves. And as long as you're following the Constitution, that's what the Republican Party stands for. And I don't agree with anybody 100%. But I do look at the bigger picture. So if you're telling me that you want to put America first, you want to put American values first, American people first, make sure that we have affordable health care because Obamacare didn't work, then I'm going to listen to you. Okay? What about Thank you, Fire. Thank you. Candace Owens dropped out of my algorithm a while ago. She actually dropped out of mine too. And I could say a lot more about Candace, but she has some lawsuits that she needs to worry about. Now, I will cover that. Absolutely. I'm interested. You're the problem. How am I the problem? How am I the problem? Am I the problem? Or are you upset that I'm speaking truth and it's not what you want to hear? Because people are buying into the woke liberal BS that the country is trying to sell us right now. But not everybody's really buying into it, you guys. What you see on the news is not real. Donald Trump is as popular as ever. People are going for Donald Trump, but you can't publicly say that you support Donald Trump because people are going to call you a racist. People are going to call you a hater, a devil. Y'all know what they call the political right. Why? Why? I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. And all I said was, I'm glad that you can't be on food stamps forever. I didn't say anything more than that. I believe that if you want to eat, then you need to work. If you're able-bodied, then you need to work. That's all I said. And I'm a Black woman, and I got called racist. So I'm really not trying to hear a lot of the comments that's coming from the chat. Now, if you have something constructive to say, I'll be happy to listen to it. And the rest, I have to just be polite. Because if I'm not polite, you guys are gonna beat me up in my in my emails and my comment sections and threaten my family and stuff like you guys been doing. I'm not mad at you for that. That just goes to show that when people don't understand stuff, they use fear, they lash out, and when they can't reason, they resort to name calling. And that's just how it is. When you can't say why you don't like something or why you don't like a president or what policy you don't like, then you want to call people dumb, stupid, and everything else. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. Where would we have been? Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Where would we? Thank you for the cash. Thank you for the catch up. I can't. Oh, somebody loves me. That was generous of you. Where would we be had Harris won the election? Or maybe I'm not sold either way. We would be in trouble. We would have to learn 63 genders. They tried to pull that on us, and we'll have to say that men could have babies and periods. That's what we'd have to say. That's what we would be. I'm clear about the policy. I'm clear about the politics, and where you're wrong, tell me, and I'll be glad to talk about it. If you want to come up and talk to me, you come up and talk to me. Other than that, I can try to read chats. But if I missed your comment, it's because because I can't get to them. How does what hurt me? Are you talking to me? I don't understand. Almost. My family is Black. My best friends are Mexican or Black. People call me racist, and I don't understand. Racist just means I disagree with you to the left. People call me racist, but I don't like to get into the color thing too much. But I did a stream, and I thought that people said Blacks couldn't be racist. I did a stream about can Blacks be racist? Anybody can be racist. But some people say that they can't be. But my point was that people all of a sudden were calling me racist, and I was just like, I thought we couldn't be racist. Anybody can be racist. There's good and bad on both sides. I'm gonna be fair because people are people. There's good and bad people. But as far as the Republican Party as a whole, Republicans are the ones that fought for civil rights and fought for the rights of Black people and fought when the Democrats threw in the KK. I'm not gonna get into all that tonight, but we know the history of the Democratic Party. And people don't want to talk about that. So when you guys are talking about racism and Donald Trump and Republicans, you've got to start the history of the Democratic Party if you really want to be taken seriously. If not, then the rest is just or start with Biden, who said that he was a racist, but he was reformed. So we can start there if you guys want to have those conversations. That's why I don't get into the race conversation. Black and brown make the world go round. Are poor Latinos still people? Everybody's people. If you're breathing, you're a person. Okay, guys, how much time? 1:33. Okay. Men and women's sports is against women's rights. That's the left. White supremacy means there's a supremacy involved. That's the left. Please try again. Where are you worried about learning genders and not lack of insight on AI, which is about to take over? That was a lot. You didn't expect me to read all that, did you, Marcus? I'm worried about two genders, man and a woman. I'm not talking about the genetic hiccup. We all know about that, but I'm worried about two genders, and I'm not going to let people tell me that there's 63 or 57 genders. Because if that was the case, when they do studies on cancer and research and they study a man and a woman, how come no one says, well, what about the other 65 genders? They don't say that because we know it's not true. And other countries are laughing at the United States when we were trying to push all these pronouns and have us learn they and them, and you can lose your job if you didn't learn a person's pronouns, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, and the fact that Donald Trump said it's okay, English is our first language here, just simple, just things like that, you guys. And you can disagree with me, it's okay. But you know I'm right though. Black, white, brown, we're all the same in God's eyes. We're all the same. Literally read a book. I can read a book in 3 different languages. I can easily read a book. Thank you for the super sticker. They want to push the up so hard now. Okay, the children. What about the 450,000 trafficked children over the border, which this admin have rescued? 129,000 so far. That's right, Baritas. They don't want to talk about that, right? Totally agree with you. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Great thing. Take a look in his book, reading from. Well, I have to read the comments from the bottom up, so you know I might miss a lot. So you guys, I try to have conversations with you, and as you see, I allow you to just put whatever in the chat, whether you agree with me or not, whether you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, or whatever you are. I don't mind it because it's all for a conversation. It's all for a conversation. But I did start these streams because the political right was being demonized by the left. And just constantly criticized and called things, like I said, racist. And like you have to be Democrat to be accepted. I work in a place where I can't say my political affiliation. How is that fair? I could say I'm Democrat all day long. As a matter of fact, people come up to me and make comments. White women that are Democrat will say, oh, I stand with you, and I have to stay very silent. And I'm not trying to bring color into it, but they are white women that come up to me saying that they stand with me and that they voted blue. And I don't say anything. I find it very weird that they, just because I'm Black, they assume that I voted blue too. But I wanted to have a platform where I could speak and not get kicked off the platform like I have been doing. So here we are. Are you a Republican? Yes. That's because they're divas. So hopefully we'll still be friends. I usually don't say my political affiliation because I don't want you guys to feel that you're not welcome. But if you must know, I am. Hey, Damage Inc. I don't know if you're in the chat. I didn't see you. Can you play the piano for us? I can play the piano for you. I was called a fascist and Nazi the other day for my opinions. And that's problematic. And the reason why it's problematic is because what they like to do is dehumanize you. And that's where the names come from. Oh, you're a bad person. They can say their points of views and we have to listen very politely, but we can't say ours. We can't say ours. And here's the problem with that. What happened with Charlie Kirk speaking his right-wing ideologies and things about the Republican Party, trying to educate young voters who are going out into the world. And what happened to him with we know the trial with Tom Robinson. People were laughing about his death, mocking him, still talking about Erica Kirk. That's a whole different story. Because they considered him problematic race, all kinds of names. You guys know it. And so when they use words like that, and you see this with anybody that people like to say is less than or they're not deserving to live, they'll first dehumanize you. That's history. And so calling Republicans anything other than Republican is hate speech, and it endangers Republicans' lives. Now, I'm a Black woman. Nobody's going to assume that I'm Republican unless they hear me speak. But I see what is said about people that have traditional values, that have conservative values. I'm not saying that it's perfect with the Republican Party, but I am saying that they're it's very loving, generous people that just want to see this country make it and want to strengthen our country. There's nothing wrong with wanting to strengthen your country, taking pride in your country, and wanting to see us stable, standing behind the commander-in-chief because he's the person that has been elected in office. And that's just what it is. God would not have allowed it if it wasn't supposed to be. He is the president. He's our commander-in-chief, and he's to lead this country. And anything other than that, I don't see it as American. You cannot go to another country and speak out. If people like say Donald Trump is a dictator, if Donald Trump was a dictator, it would be like what's happening in Iran with those protesters. I don't agree with that, and Donald Trump doesn't agree with that, okay? And that's why he speaks out, because that's not right. So Donald Trump obviously is not a dictator. You're able to speak out against the government, have a Twitter account, do what you got to do, but it has to be peaceful. And it has to be a peaceful protest. You can protest. I went to these protests, okay? And I've seen them. Some of them was a little hard to take seriously because I was speaking to a bunch of dinosaurs and Statue of Liberty. I didn't mind the Statue of Liberty, but I didn't get the Teletubbies, but I was still respectful, and I got flipped off by like an 80-something-year-old woman, and I found that insane. Please, Trump, deport her. You want me deported? Why the heck would an American dictator be anything like Iran? I just was talking about the protest over there. You just missed the point I was trying to make. Trump supporter ICE here. You guys want me deported? I was born here. Where do you want me to go? Charlie was a horrible person by his rhetoric. Didn't matter that he was Republican. Horrible how? Whether we like what he said or not, holy is your name, okay? He still had the right to say it, and he had the right to live. Horrible people don't have the right to live. There's horrible people. But if you're not breaking the law, it wasn't a case of eye for an eye. He wasn't threatening anybody's life. So are you saying that he deserved to lose his life the way that he did? I want to make sure I understand why you're saying that he was a horrible person. African Americans are protected. What does color have to do with it? Renee Good was a horrible person hitting people with cars. Mercy. She hit the ICE agent with the car. The ICE agent had a previous incident a year ago. The roads were slippery. I've played that so many times for you guys. And they're trying to make her a martyr. She wasn't a martyr. She wasn't a martyr. You guys have made, not you guys, but they have made Charlie Kirk a martyr. He's a political martyr. It's 1:30. Okay. No one deserves to die that way. No one deserves to die that way. Thank you for saying that. I absolutely agree with you. So you have somebody that says Charlie Kirk was a great guy and a great man. He was brilliant and is greatly missed. Trump and Maria are the only ones against the dictatorship. Okay. All right. No one deserves that. But Charlie was, all caps, a horrible person, just like talking heads on both sides. Okay, so I'm not going to argue whether he was a good person or not, because you guys are going to have your opinion. But I think it's fair to say that no one deserves to die for their beliefs, and that if we have the freedom of speech, as the Constitution allows, that's in our Bill of Rights, then there has to be speech that hurts your feelings as well. And to open fire in broad, in a public space, broad daylight, is a threat to our democracy, public safety. There's so many things that's wrong there. So yes, there are some people that are not that nice. Charlie Kirk said a lot of things that I agree with, and he said things that I didn't. He said a lot of things that I agreed with, and he said things that I didn't agree with. But what I do agree with is his right to say it, and I have to stand by that. Think of his family, wife, and babies. I knew you worked at. Oh, you guys are talking to yourself. I'm gonna say I work at Burger King. She was driving at the officer. Who cares which way her wheels was turned? Sad people let words hurt them. I agree. And that's a sad thing. Actions are more important. So you guys, see, you are utterly blind to the evil of your own side, just like those on the left, and no one has attacked the Bill of Rights like Donald Trump has. Are you blind? Okay, so obviously, are you saying that Charlie Kirk was not attacked for his speech? I completely disagree. So if he's attacked for his speech, and his speech is within the Bill of Rights, then he would have been attacked for the Bill of Rights. But we're talking about the Constitution. So I'm not sure the point that you were trying to make there. And I said I don't agree 100% with either party. But I'm proud to be a Republican. And I'm going to leave that there. We agree about Charlie. Okay. Try listening instead of talking over everyone you don't agree with. I'm not talking over. Are you talking to me? Because I can't be talking over anyone if I'm the only one talking. Sounds like you're confused. I'm only confused to people that don't want to get me. When you don't want to understand someone, you're going to say they're confused. Oh, not me. Sorry, Ryan. Okay, thank you. When you don't want to understand someone, you're going to say that they're confused, they're delusional. Proud to be Republicans is saying it's proud to be a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you can be proud to be a Democrat. I'm proud to be who I am. Charlie Kirk was a complete racist. I want to understand you, Justin. You can ask me whatever you want. I have some time today. That's why I stopped my video short so I could talk to you guys. He was assassinated because of his views and political prowess. I understand. I mean, I agree with damage 100%. And we can't deny that. You can easily, right when that happened, look at how ignorant people were, their comments, how insensitive. I saw the most cruel things, people mocking his death, and that was really insane. And that's the country I don't recognize. What happened to humanity? What happened to compassion? Just to do that and think that it was okay. Now look at Tyler Robinson is sitting there looking like a scared little boy facing trial. Where's all the people that had his back? They can't do the time for him. And where are those people? Many of those were bots. I'm not sure what to talk about. Wow, it's like you don't even understand the simple messages. You are completely lost and part of the problem. How am I part of the problem, and what don't I understand? Wasa Matu, what don't I understand? Please don't talk about compassion and you support ICE. I support ICE. They're out there doing their job. I support them. I have compassion for people. I have compassion for people that get arrested. I have compassion for people that find themselves in trouble. Okay. But does that mean that they're not to be held up to the law? No, I can have compassion and still say that the law has to be followed. I didn't tell them to break the law. But that doesn't mean I don't have compassion. You're making a false correlation there. Just to fit what you want what I'm saying to mean, and that's just not okay. People who want to know the real Black history have begun with the Arabs from slavery. I'm not talking about Black history. Supporting ICE is supporting freedom. You from America, your parents. Yes. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about, though? ICE continues to break the law. ICE has not broken any laws. ICE has not broken any laws. But let the media tell it. So just like with the 5-year-old, the caption was the 5-year-old's being arrested, right? The little boy. They didn't show you how the father was running from ICE. They didn't show you that the cops were keeping that little boy. They couldn't just leave him out there by himself. They had to protect him, put him in a safe place. They didn't tell you all that. Instead, the caption was just, I can pull it up right now, but I won't because I'm not going to help them spread their fake news. The caption was this little boy trying to really make our hearts bleed, that he was just by himself and they arrested him. No, a 5-year-old boy is being arrested. That's not true. So I want to see America great. I want to see our country strong. And Donald Trump now it's been a year since he's been in office. Now we can say it's been a year. In a year, he's accomplished a lot. He's accomplished a lot in Gaza, what's happening over Israel. We have Maduro who committed crimes against the United States, and now he's got to answer for those crimes. And that's going to send a strong message to other countries that you cannot bring your drugs over here. You cannot bring your gang members and drop them off in the United States, and we're going to protect our borders. And if not, you're going to be upheld to the highest extent of the law, and that's just what has to happen. And Maduro is facing death. I don't know his wife's. Anyways, I have to follow the trial. And we're going to see what happens. And if he is convicted, that's going to send a really strong message. So that's going to be it's a controversial trial. People don't like it, but he's had an arrest warrant for a long time. And he didn't care. He was just mocking the United States. You see him dancing and partying like nothing's going to happen. And it took Donald Trump to do it. Nobody talked about when Biden was talking about arresting Maduro, because he did. So much so that there was a bounty on his head Donald Trump first term was 20 million. For Maduro, the first term, the American people paid for it. Okay, nobody said, "Oh, don't go and get him." Biden had 25 million on him, and then Donald Trump doubled that to 50 million, went over there and snatched them up. So all of this outrage for what's happening is just fake outrage. It's fake. I didn't hear one person protest. I played the video. I didn't hear one person protest to the Biden administration like, "No, don't go into Venezuela and grab the president." No. We don't want your drugs in our country. The people of Venezuela are elated. How is deporting folks' grandmothers stopping drugs? Kev Dog, you're combining what I'm saying. Now, if a grandmother is here because she came here illegally, it doesn't matter how long she's been here, she still came here illegally. There is a way to come into the United States. There's a process. I didn't say the grandmother was bringing drugs into the country. I clearly said I think I spoke clearly in that situation when I spoke about Maduro and drugs coming into the country, but I didn't say that illegal immigrants coming here all brought drugs. Drugs do come into the country, and a lot of it does come through illegal immigration, and the presidents can stop it, but they chose not to, and those countries benefit off of trafficking in the United States, whether it's children, whether it's drugs. And that's a crime against the United States, okay? And Venezuela happens to have a lot of oil. So it's a win-win. But I don't want to sound cold, you guys, but you're asking me some tough questions. Who makes the best masterworks? I'm proud of Trump's decision to arrest Maduro and his wife. Those two are wicked. And there's a warrant out for his son. So we'll see what happens there. Golly, we're fine. You're not from the U.S.? Oh, please don't tell me where I'm from. Please don't tell me where I'm from. Official Reggie Rax, how are you? How are you? Good to see you. They are reversing legal status for many legal immigrants as well. Show me where that's actually happening. Show me where that's actually happening, because that's not what they're doing. You're talking about something completely different. If you are illegal, you're talking about something completely different, Kev Dog. It's okay to say you are wrong. If I was wrong, I would say I was wrong. But I'm not going to say I'm wrong when I'm right. It's not about right or wrong, you guys. I play the videos before I speak on it. Just look the stuff up. I can't be a part of free thinking. It's life goal elsewhere. Okay. It's hard to take you guys seriously, not all of you. When you're saying things like, I'm not from here, I feel like you're trying to deflect from what I'm talking about. Because regardless if I'm from here or not, what does that have to do with what I'm talking about? You just throw anything in the chat and I waste my time reading it. Where am I from then, if you know so much? Where am I from? We already researched your lies. Then what did I lie about? Now I have you talk about my big hair all you want. My hair is big. Are you okay? I love it that way. I researched, you guys. Put your points in there. All right, you guys, I'm going to say this. I'm praying for our country. I am praying for midterm elections. Republicans, conservatives, y'all go out there and vote. It's going to be important. You have an accent that I'm not about to say or argue with you about where I'm from. Think what you want about where I'm from. We don't need your prayers. All right. Maybe not. Maybe not. But I'm going to pray anyway. Let me go on mute real fast, you guys. Ryan, what? Oh. What a beautiful lady to wake up to. Oh, thank you so much, Leon. Thank you. I appreciate you. God bless you and your family as well. Come over borders. If they really wanted, they could have just bought a plane ticket and tried to figure it out legally. They could have, but they chose not to. They could have. I'm sorry. What I was looking at is how the news is just lying about what the ICE agents are doing over there. And so that's why I try to watch. I'm really careful about what I watch. And because the way that they're trying to show it is these ICE agents are attacked there. And they don't want to show all that. They don't want to show it. They want to make it seem as if ICE is just attacking people. And you can clearly see that they're trying to rage bait these ICE agents, clearly, but they're not going to show all that. So that's just, you just got to be careful with what you watch and what you listen to. And that's just pretty much what I can say about that. What happened to America First? And again, I'm all for peaceful protesting, but what you see is just not peaceful protesting out there. And that's just what I'm talking about. So, okay. I think I froze. Before I get out of here, I did not really talk much about what happened at that church, so I'm just going to play this for you really quickly. I didn't talk about that. I should have, but it's not long, you guys. It's just like a little recount.
Get them out of our country. Bring them to prisons and jails and mental institutions from where they came. That's all they want to do. They're patriots, and they have to be abused by guys like Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible yesterday. All ICE
There's a lot that's going on. All ICE wants to do is their job and keep our country safe. And people are attacking anyone that stands with them and saying that they're hurting people and that they're terrorizing people.
The storm is here. When we come, one, we go all. No one can stop what is coming. Get here, guys. We need you in Minnesota. These people are terrorists. And all you liberal commie put your hands to yourself. You're gonna get hurt today, all right? We executed one of you yesterday. We executed one of you yesterday. You understand that? We executed one of you yesterday. Don't get hurt. You're just talking to white supremacists. You guys keep saying stupid games.
Does that look like a peaceful protest? Or does it look like they're agitating people? So I want to just keep telling you guys the truth. That's it. So the ICE agents are doing the best they can, and people are getting in the way, and that's just how it is. So I'll keep talking about that. Wait, so no black folks come from out of the country illegally? What are you guys talking about? The black folks. What do black folks have to do with it? I'm not sure what you guys are talking about on that one. They all started back on January 6th. I'm not sure what y'all talking about. I'm not sure what y'all talking about, but I must not have mods in my chat. There you go. You can call me Emu. You don't get to call me what you want and be in my chat. You can watch from the clouds. There you go. I don't care if you guys like what I look like or not. Who cares? Use your words or else watch me from the clouds. This is my chat, fool. Liberals like thinking they are the only ones with rights. Well, that's why I got him out of here, Stewie. It's not going to stop me from speaking. You can call me fat. You can call me whatever you want. I'm still going to say what I'm saying. What's happening in Minnesota is absolutely crazy. We talked about the nurse strike. The nurses on strike over in New York. There's a lot of things. I don't even want to talk about that right now. But we see what's happening in New York and other places with Mandani and all these things. I'm promising all these things. And now, and the ICE agent, like, this is just not what our country was for. All right. So again, put America first, put our values first, protect American citizens, make sure American citizens have affordable health care before you go trying to give trillions of dollars to illegal immigrants, because we already have to take care of them when they go to our emergency rooms. You go to any public emergency room and they have to treat you. All right. So it matters. Our country takes a toll. It's not in our country's best interest to take care of a bunch of people that's not from here. And the only reason why people are fighting for them to come here is I'm not going to get into it tonight, but you can already tell why people are fighting for illegal immigrants to be here. And it has nothing to do with anything else but the way that they're going to vote, who benefits from it, and that's it. That's it. So if ICE yanked you, Minnesota needs to be an American state. I'm here legally. All right, you guys, I got to lay it down. Question is, why did an ICE agent have a gun if they're not law enforcement? Okay, I got to lay it down. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you guys for supporting the commentary. I'm praying for the country, you guys. I'm not trying to get you guys upset with these conversations. It's just a conversation. But when you come with personal attacks, that tells me already that you don't have a reason and you don't have anything to stand on, and all you have are your attacks. And that's not going to get us anywhere. All right? I love you guys. Jerome, it's okay. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Love you back. I don't mind. Low IQ. You don't know me at all. You're the best. Thank you guys. Thank you guys that support me. You guys can hit my community wall. Whatever. You can leave me comments. You can tell me what you want to talk about. You can tell me what you didn't like. I'm here for it. Have a good night, you guys. Good night. Good night, Lionel. Dr. Manhattan, get some sleep too. I'm gonna lay down. Thank you for modding. I know it wasn't easy. You and Claude held me down. Oh, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you, Veritas. She said the immigrants of America support Donald Trump. That's right. And you guys, no, my family did not come from here, and I support Donald Trump. Veritas, thank you so much for your super stickers, and thank you guys that donated to my channel. Thank you guys for your likes and just for hanging out with me. I thank you for the conversation. Okay. God bless you guys and have a good night. Veritas, I appreciate you, and I will be back later today. And if not later today, I'll be back tomorrow for sure. Good night, you guys. Big hugs.